Hi, good morning, beautiful people. We're going to go ahead and go over your homework 2 first notes. Okay, this one go directly with handout 2. So we'll be working on that in class, but let's go ahead and get started. So here we have a warm-up. We have a table in, and then we're looking at u sub n. So again, n is our term, and then we have the next term. So, or the value. Let me just get my pen color. Okay, so we want to know the first term, what the value is going to be. If we look at our points, we can see that's 35. Okay, so then again, 228, 321, 414, and 57. So B wants us to find u sub 0. So the 0 term. So again, these are our terms, and we have our values. Okay, so the 0 term. So if we look here, first things first, you need to know what the pattern is growing by. So from 35 to 28, 28 to 21, and so on and so on, I can see that we're subtracting 7. So if we're subtracting 7 to the right, to go backwards, you need to add 7. So that is why we're going to have 42 for the 0 term. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and write the recursive formula, which we practiced in homework 1. So the only difference is before we would start with u sub 1, so the first term. Now we're going to go ahead and start with u sub 0, so the 0 term. Okay, so u sub 0, so the 0 term is equal to 42. The next part of the formula is u sub n, so the next term is equal to the previous u sub n minus 1. And we're subtracting 7, that was our difference. Okay, where n is greater than or equal to 1. So now, before we would say n is greater than or equal to 2, but that's because we were starting at the first term. But since we're starting at the 0 term, now we're looking at every term from 1 and on. So that is what that little notation is that we do there. So if we start at the first term, then we're looking at all the terms 2 and above. So if we're starting at the 0 term, we're looking at all the terms from number 1 and above, okay? So just be wary of that if we're starting at the 0 term, which most of the time now it is going to be at the 0 term. All right, so we want to find u sub 35, so the 35th term. Now, there's something that I left off the notes, so we're just going to kind of like add it in right here, which is to find u sub 35, we need to do the explicit formula. And we're going to explain more about explicit like down more on the notes. But explicit formula is what you guys are used to, like y equals mx plus b. Okay, so like your slope, that is explicit. Okay, because you don't need to know the previous term to find any term in the sequence. That's what the explicit formula is. You can find any term in the sequence without the help of the previous term. So instead of doing y equals, we're just going to do f of x. So remember, f of x is the same thing as y. That's just function notation. So f of x is y. And then equals mx plus b. Our m is our difference. Okay, so our slope is going to be our difference. So if our difference is -7, then it should be -7 times x plus b, which is our y-intercept or our 0 term, in this case was 42. Okay, so the explicit formula is just your simple slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, or f of x equals mx plus b. The m is your difference, so I should do a different color. M is your difference, okay, and then your b, okay, is your 0 term. Okay, right there, right? I don't like that pink, sorry. Okay, so now if we find u sub 35, we're just going to plug in 35 to our equation. So f of 35, because we're plugging in 35 for x, and again, we don't do anything with that side. That's just showing that 35 is going to take the place of x. So -7 times 35 plus 42. And just to save time, -7 times 35 is going to be -245 plus 42, which is just going to equal -203. So the 35th term has -2 over 3, -203 for the value. Okay. When we look at patterns, we naturally compare numbers right next to each other to draw some sort of connection. Our brains naturally think recursively. For example, how would you find use of 11? So, well, let's go ahead and look at our pattern here. What is it that we're adding by? I can see that we're adding 250. So to go from month 10 to month 11, we need to add 250. Okay. So then use of 11 is going to be 7,750. Again, that's recursive thinking. How would we find use of 29? Well, again, we know what 30 is, so let's go backwards. If we were adding 250, we're going to subtract 250. So then that's going to give us 12,250. Okay. Use of 72 is not as obvious or as easy to figure out, so we need to use the explicit formula. There it comes up again. Okay. So that lets us input 72 to get the corresponding output. So here's the definitions, the key concepts. So understanding what recursive is, what explicit is, and when we use one of the other. So recursive formula allows you to find the value of any term if you know the value of the previous. Okay. And then explicit will allow you to find the value of any term regardless if you know the term before it or not. So you don't need to know the first term, third term, whatever it is that you're looking for. You can use the explicit formula. So example 1, we have u sub 0 is equal to 2. So that's our 0 term. And we have u sub n is equal to u sub n minus 1 plus 6. So there's our difference. We're adding 6. So on the table, we can go ahead and fill that in. So u sub 0 was 2, and we're adding 6. So 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 6 is 14. 14 plus 6 is 20. 20 plus 4 is 26. Okay. And then what we're going to find out is right here. Okay. So after we write out our formula, we'll be able to fill that box in. Before we do, let's go ahead and graph. Okay. And so let's just go ahead and label this. This is going to be our term, and these will be our values. So u sub n, and then we have our n. Okay. So 0, 2, 1, 8, 2, 14, 3, 20, 4, 26. And without even knowing, I can just keep following the pattern. So 5 would be 32. And then 6 would be 38. Okay, so we can just fill in that table. So what is the slope? The slope is positive 6, right? We're adding 6. That's our difference. Okay, so then our explicit formula, okay, is going to be f of x, and again, you could use y, is equal to our slope times x plus the y-intercept or the 0 term, which is 2. Okay, so if we want to find u sub 22, let's go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to just do the work down here. So we would have f of 22 is equal to 6 times 22 plus 2. Okay, so that's going to equal 132 plus 2, 134. So the 22nd term has a value of 134. So now we can go ahead and write that in, 134. So now find the value of n so that u sub n is equal to 86. So now we're going to do it backwards. So now we're plugging in 86 right here, okay? Because this is basically saying that y is equal to 86. So again, this is x, this is y, this whole thing is y, right? F of x is equal to y. So we're plugging in 86 right there. So we'll have 86 is equal to 6x plus 2. We're trying to solve for x. So we subtract 2 from both sides. We have 84 is equal to 6x. I'll divide by 6 on both sides. So x is equal to 14. So the 14th term has 86 for the value. Okay. The 14th term has 86 for the value. All right, let's go ahead and look at example 2. So a private school purchased purchases $26,400 of new computer equipment. For tax purposes, the school estimates that the equipment decreases in value by the same amount of $3,050 each year. So decreases in value. And it's decreasing by the same of $3,050. So write the recursive formula to model the yearly value of the computer equipment. So our zero term is going to be 26,040. That's our zero term. This is our slope or common difference. Okay, so u sub 0 is equal to 26,400. U sub n is equal to u sub n minus 1 minus 3,050. Okay, and then where n is greater than or equal to 1. So it's minus because we're decreasing, so we need to be careful with the vocabulary not to put plus. Right, so the slope is going to be negative 3,050. What is the meaning of the slope in the context of this problem? It's decreasing by $3,000.50 each year. So again, slope has to be a rate of change. Okay, it has to be a rate of change. So it's like this amount of dollars per year it's decreasing by. So for our explicit formula that can be used to find the estimated value at any given year is going to be our f of x is equal to our slope times x plus our initial value. Okay, now we're going to make a quick sketch to model the value of the computer as a function of the number of years owned. Okay, so we're just going to draw this little graph. Okay, let's label this. This is going to be our value. This will be the years. Okay, and we know for sure that the zero term, right? That point right there is going to be 0, 26,400. And it's going to decrease as the years go down, as the years pass. Okay, so that's just a quick little sketch. Okay, what I want you guys to do, I want you to complete example 3. And we will check this in class. And when I check your notes, that is what I will be checking. I'm going to look at your example 3. Okay, so you need to do that on your own. All right, so for example 4, we are given the initial value u sub 0 or f of 0. We're given the common difference. We want to find the terms. We need to do the formula, recursive formula, and also the explicit. So this is how it's going to go. So we're starting at 7 and we're subtracting 4. So our first 4 terms, okay, pay attention. It's starting at 1. Okay, this is u sub 0. So you should not write 7 and blah, 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 right? This is the term we need to start with. So the first term. So if we're subtracting 4, 7 minus 4 is going to be 3. That is u sub 1. U sub 2, the second term. Subtract 4. That is negative 1. The third term. Subtract 4. That's negative 5. And the fourth term. Subtract 4. That's negative 9. Okay, so pay attention that this is u sub 0. So u0. Okay, this is u1, u2, u3, and u4. Okay, so for our recursive formula, we're going to start at the 0 term still. So it will be u sub 0 is equal to 7. U sub n is equal to u sub n minus 1. We're subtracting 4, and where n is greater than or equal to 1. And then the explicit formula will be f of x is equal to our common difference, our slope, negative 4 times x plus 7. Okay, this goes here, and let me change the color. This portion, oh, not, let's see. This portion goes here. So I color code so you know where what goes where. All right, another one that I want you to do, I'm going to go ahead and get you started. So all we're given is the terms. So when you're starting at 14, this is u sub 1, this is u4. Okay, so we're adding the difference, and we're adding the difference one more time. Okay, and then we add it one more time to get to get 38. So let me do that again. We start at 14. We add the difference. Whatever we get there, we add the difference again. And then from there, we add the difference again and we get 38. So what we have is 14 plus 3d is equal to 38. So to find what the difference is, subtract 14, subtract 14. So 3d is equal to 24. So d is going to be equal to 8. So the difference is adding 8. Okay. 14 plus 8 is going to be, was that 22?